What's up, everybody? This is Bryson Fowler, Bosstalks on the Rooftop, and we are live here today. I have the honor of introducing Mr. Ricardo of PCA. He is the Director of International Affairs and Education. Now, that means a lot because he's also the co-founder of the Cigar Academy. So, guys, without further ado, Mr. Ricardo, how you doing, baby?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Bryson. Delighted to be here. Pleasure seeing you. Much better in person, but we can be in person. We're here with you. So yeah, no, I'm here.
We'll be in person later on because I come back to Dallas today. So
I look forward to seeing you here in the beautiful state of Texas, Dallas. Beautiful day, and very excited and grateful for the opportunity to speak with you and with your audience and everybody who joined us today. So very happy and thankful and excited.
Oh, most definitely, brother. So with that said, why cigars, brother? Why did you get all the way into this great thing of tobacco?
Well, Bryson, there's a long story which I'll try to abbreviate a little bit, and I can put it in very simple terms.
Take your time. I got all day.
My dad used to tell me, Ricardo, if you find a passion, out of that passion, you can make a profession. You will be the luckiest man in the world. And I think in many ways that's exactly what happened to me. Whilst I've been smoking cigars back in my very early 20s, I'm now 45, so it's been over 20 years that I've been enjoying cigars. First as an aficionado, just like everyone else, just loving cigars. I was born in Nicaragua. So Nicaragua, it's one of those cigar nations where, one way or another you find folks, my own parents, family, relatives, and others, that I saw them always smoking cigars, and I recall the distinct smell. And so there was always an initial personal attraction to enjoyment of cigars. But it was only later in life, after a couple of different professional lives. I mean, I've been in the technology industry. I did that for about 10 years in technology, mostly in the UK, Europe, Spain, so different countries. I left my country, Nicaragua, when I was 17 years old. I've lived now in 8 different countries since. Been so 26, 27 years traveling the world. But it was about 10 years ago, about 2016, distinctively recall, as I arrived back to London, I was living in Singapore, and I received a call to join essentially the diplomatic service of my country. So after having worked for about a decade in technology, I became Nicaragua's deputy ambassador to the United Kingdom, to Ireland, and to Iceland.
Wow.
And very early on, as I went into my role and I started learning as much as I could, I mean, having lived in different countries, cigars right away at a very initial stage became a diplomatic tool, became a fantastic, very effective tool to engage with individuals. Beyond the conversations that you would have in different, multilateral organizations, from UN, United Nations bodies, to the International Coffee Organization or the International Cacao Organization, you sometimes have, strong conversations and you defend your positions. But it was after those conversations, when you go into more intimate moments with a cigar, as I call it, as a great lubricator, quite frankly, of conversations, when everybody's a little bit more relaxed, that's when I identified this as a really powerful tool to help connect. And the same way you do it in any kind of industry, the way you do it in any kind of a societal engagement in any place around the world. Back in London, cigars became that thing for me. And for the first time, being from Nicaragua, having that background, being so representative of a nation within the cigar world, it immediately became one of my tools. And right then in 2016, I founded the Diplomatic Cigar Club. So that would be my entry into the cigar industry while still working as a diplomat. And in diplomacy, again, cigars, it was interesting. Even I remember the first time I went to present credentials as a diplomat in Ireland, the president of Ireland back then, Michael Higgins, a
Mm.
historic figure in Irish history, one of the first points of conversation during that presentation of credentials were cigars. Quite
Mm.
naturally, he was well briefed into what cigars meant for Nicaragua. And it
Right.
was so interesting because when I left my country in 97, cigars were not anywhere close of what they were now in 2016. So going into the process for me to realize what had happened in that period of time, how Nicaragua
Mm.
became a cigar powerhouse, and what it meant for Nicaraguans in terms of the jobs, in terms of the social impact, and in
Right.
terms of the way they saw themselves and Nicaraguans saw themselves in the world, right away became something of attraction to me. And that's why I had a diplomat, I can tell you where from. We had the ambassador of Lebanon back then. The
Oh wow.
Lebanese, in case you don't know, they're the biggest smoker of cigars per capita in the world. So the
Really?
Lebanese ambassador comes to me and says, Ricardo, one thing I've noticed is in your events at the embassy, you seem to have the best cigars, the
Mm.
best rum, the best coffee, the best chocolates. Even if you're a small embassy, you manage to do that. He says, so why don't you create some kind of club so all of us diplomats can enjoy and do events for the embassies together with you to
Right.
showcase cigars in complement with other different parts and different products from different parts of the world, music,
Mm.
culture, food, and so on. And that's how the idea originated. Really early on, we identified as well that whilst in the UK, unlike the US, taxation, well, in the US, you do have states that are taxation that is terrible, but in the UK, it's really bad. A cigar, by the time from the importation of that cigar, by the time you bring it in, let's say from Nicaragua via the US or via different countries, and it lands in the UK, by the time you buy it, it's 70% that cost of that cigar. But as a
Yeah.
but as an embassy or as a military base, you do have an allowance. You have an allocation of cigars that they can purchase without incurring any of those duties and taxes. So there
Oh,
was
okay.
a gap in the market that the Diplomatic Cigar Club started fulfilling, basically bringing cigars from anywhere non-Cuban, non-Cuban cigars. You have a lot of Cuban cigars in the UK. So we started the provision, basically, and supply of cigars to military bases and embassies. So that's how started getting into it. And right
Mm.
away, look, it became something so naturally enjoyable, something that makes you really proud. The way since that very early stage I saw cigars and I felt cigars was not as a product in itself. This is more than a product. This is an extension, this is an expression of culture. So in that sense, that American culture, when I mean American, I mean in the whole sense of the word, from all the way from the north, all the way down to Tierra del Fuego in Argentina.
Right.
So easy became something naturally enjoyable and quite effective, quite successful.
Right.
And when I went full time into the industry, I remember I was finishing my 5 year um, service basically in that country, and every 5 years you move into a different nation. That's the nature of being on a diplomatic mission.
Right.
This
Right.
mission was going to be in Brussels. When
Mm.
they appointed me as was going to be the ambassador of Nicaragua in Brussels,
Right.
and when I mentioned this to my colleagues that I already developed in the industry, the owner of the largest importer, the most important importer of cigars in the UK, non-Cuban cigars, he said,
Mm.
Ricardo, look, we love you. We enjoy working with you. If you're open to it, we'd love to for you to work with us.
Mm.
Remember, I went back home that day, talked to my wife. My wife is originally from Boston, Irish Scottish girl. Met her here in Dallas, married for
Mm.
20, oh, yeah, 20 years already.
Wow.
And she said, look,
Rats.
she said, honey, I never seen you any happier than when you're around the world of cigars. So if this is
Mm.
gonna make you a happier man, it's gonna make me a happier woman, she said. So by all means, take your chances. So it was a bit of a crazy move. You know, you move from the stability of diplomacy, it's a pretty stable gig, to cigars, which you do it with passion, but it's
Right.
not as say stable in many ways as diplomacy. and that was in 20 yeah 2020 2021 when I went in full time, and I was the importer distributor of premium cigars from Nicaragua, Honduras, Dominican Republic, Mexico, in the United Kingdom. And that's
Mm,
how does this all started, and it's been quite a journey ever since, Bryson. But that's how I went into cigars, and that's why I do what I do.
man, that's a phenomenal journey because like it's not rooted in just one phase of life. It's like you went from this country to this country. You were being a diplomat, and I still want to know like how in the hell did you land at being a diplomat? Like you were being, trying to figure out, find your way into the world. Like you moved from Nicaragua at age 17, right? So like, how do you just land in like, yeah, I'll be a diplomat for this country?
But look, I mean, there's some story behind it. So those 10 years that I spent prior to being recruited by the Foreign Office of Nicaragua allow me to work at senior level
Mm,
in leading organizations. So the first one was in the gaming industry. William Hill is the oldest gaming casino bookmaker in the world, British
mm,
company. So I started working with them first. Then I moved to TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor, again, one of the biggest entities in the travel sector
right.
within technology. And I did that from different countries as well. So both with both organizations, they moved me to Spain. I worked in
Mm,
Gibraltar. I worked in Israel, in Tel Aviv. I worked in then with TripAdvisor, I moved to Asia. So I opened operations for them in the APAC region. So I already
wow.
had somewhat of that international exposure and experience
Mm,
working at different level, senior level in these countries and the UK, including the UK. So we didn't have in Nicaragua many Nicaraguans who had that kind of background and experience, and that's what I think the Foreign Office saw as an opportunity. And it's one
mm,
of those things, when you get a call like that and you have an opportunity to serve your nation where you were born. Whilst I'm
right.
half Italian, that's the last time where it comes from. I'm half Nicaraguan. My
Right.
Nicaraguan side, that's where I was born. And that was what, the first 17 years of your life are so formative, and it
Mm,
creates a lot of what matters to you deeply. So I saw it as a chance to give back to my nation where I was born, to help inspire other people that perhaps don't see themselves as capable, or don't have they don't see the future. They have a glass ceiling that is so low that I thought, look, if I can help other Nicaraguans realize that doesn't matter where you're born, if you have the passion, you have the love, you have the dedication, whatever you get yourself into, you can make it. So
mm,
those are the reasons why, yeah, when diplomacy knocked on my door, I did not hesitate too much. I thought this is my chance to give back to
right.
the little beautiful sweet country of Nicaragua. But you're
No,
right. It's not a normal thing that you get a call from.
it's not. It's not. But it's one of those things that like, yo, like like you never realize who's watching your travels, who you're running into, who you're talking with. Like you were working technology for TripAdvisor, right? And yes, you speak multiple languages, um, but you're in Israel, where Spanish doesn't even make sense, right? And then you come back and then like you get a call from a diplomat saying, "Hey, we like what you're doing. You got some experience. Come this way." And it's like, how do you even know me?
You do get a bit, I wouldn't say spooked, but surprised that the level of knowledge. Like, yes, indeed. I mean, you're more under the radar than you think sometimes.
Right.
I value that. I value the fact that they wanted to have someone to bring a different perspective into what the diplomatic service was accomplishing in the United Kingdom, and the fact that they entrusted me with that opportunity to basically open up channels of communication of helping grow the bilateral trade between the two countries,
Mm,
and helping the connection. It's interesting because the UK and Nicaragua, interesting enough, many people don't know this. There is a strong historic connection. If you go back even after the Spaniards arrived, early 1500s, the Brits actually colonized all of the Caribbean side of Nicaragua. And in
right.
the east coast of Nicaragua, it's basically folks that look exactly like you. They
Mm,
don't look like me. They
right.
with a beautiful English kind of it sounds like Belize, accent.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
closer to Jamaica.
Patois.
They're closer to the Bahamas. They came from Africa with
Mm,
that British colonization part of it. So
right.
there's a connection already there. But then also in the 80s, a lot of Brits came over to Nicaragua. And actually, between the UK and Nicaragua, there's 12 different twin towns. You know, when two cities from two nations create a twinning. So in the case of these two countries, which you wouldn't expect, there's 12 towns, cities in Nicaragua that are
Uh,
twin with cities in the UK.
oh wow.
And again, someone says there is no such thing as coincidence, but
Mm,
the city where I moved first in the UK in 2007, Sheffield, the city of Sheffield, up in the Yorkshire, which is like the Texas of the UK, is the biggest state, the biggest province,
hmm.
the UK. That city of Sheffield is twin with the city of Esteli, Nicaragua.
Oh wow.
Esteli is the cigar city by where all the majority of the factories of Nicaragua, cigar factories, are in Esteli. I
Right.
didn't know that till later on. And in fact, we had the mayor of Esteli at some point visit Sheffield, and I brought him. We did all the political engagement. And it was only many years after, when I was already in the industry, I went back to Esteli and I met the mayor again, who's still the mayor till today.
Oh wow.
Um, and he said, "Remember when we met in Sheffield? What a small world! Now you're here in the cigar industry, but back then he was visiting me." So yeah, there's
Right.
all these connections between the two countries. So in many ways, the fact that they reached out to someone who had lived for a significant period of time in that country and knew the country, had worked with Brits for a long time,
Mm,
I think it made sense. I think within the scope of what they were looking for, and it was
right.
a privilege. Quite honestly, it was a nice experience. London, alongside cities like Washington, Brussels, are some of the key diplomatic posts where you
Mm,
have an opportunity. If you pay attention, we have two of this, we have two of this, only one of these. So if you
right.
watch, you listen, you're able
Right.
to absorb the endeavors and the practice of diplomats in London is really high end. It's really good quality people doing an amazing work. So I was blessed. I was very fortunate to learn from the best in diplomacy by simply being around them. The same with cigars. So quite frankly, I think with the tobacco and cigar industry, my approach has always been approach of being humble, listen, take notes, and learn. And that's why
Right.
education to what I dedicated myself very deeply and very heavily since early on in my career, and now with the Premium Cigar Association,
Mm,
that ability to gather the knowledge from the elders, gather the knowledge from those people who practice and work day in and day out
mhm.
in the craft, in the creation of this product, and also in the sales and distribution and marketing and so on. By absorbing all of this, being attentive and being humble and asking the right questions, and that humble inquiry can take you a long way. People are very open.
Right.
It's one of the traits of this industry. Folks welcome people that want to learn, and they're very keen in sharing that knowledge. It's up to us to be able to absorb it and share it and spread it as much as we
Right.
can.
And pass it on. Um, I'm glad you really dove into that aspect of understanding how, like, if we're observing and we're taking in knowledge and we're humble enough to learn, then more opportunities will open up for us. It leads me to my question as into the Cigar Academy, because I wanted to talk about what your role is for PCA in the international affairs, and how did um, partnering with PCA and then putting the Cigar Academy along with the PCA seem like the most sense for your position as an entrepreneur that started the Cigar Academy.
Absolutely, more than happy to tell about that journey. And I think if we start with the more recent moment, right, the moment when the BCA is in a situation where they are trying to identify the best platform, the best tool to essentially become the education arm of the association. By then, the Cigar Academy has been launched for 2 years. So in that process, as they were trying to identify, we had conversations. And we went very deep into what was the reason why we created the Cigar Academy, the functioning behind it, the platform that we had in both in terms of technology and the curriculums that we had developed. and it all fall into place into being at the right time, at the right place. PCA trying to identify that. Me having just finished essentially a project with Casa to Rent from Mexico. So in
Mm.
August last year, that's when I had a conversation with Josh, where he basically, yeah, we expressed my desire to support the industry in a more wider way, not just within a specific country, a specific brand, or specific country where you work in, but
Hmm.
more in a global way. And he said, Ricardo, I think you're the right man for doing this. And I would love to explore how the Cigar Academy potentially could become that platform, that element, that extension to help us drive all of educational programming that we are developing. And I would love you to basically lead that. And then on the international side as well. I mean, it all goes with my background, having been an importer distributor in the UK. I did that in Spain as well.
Mm.
So have a very close relationship with all the major importers and distributors all across countries outside of the US.
Right.
It all fall into place. But going back a bit into why the Cigar Academy, right? Why was it born, and why I dedicated so much time into doing this?
Mm.
Quite frankly, came first and foremost. There was a need when I was hearing a lot of what folks were talking about in different media outlets and in conversations that you see online or things that you see in social media. We felt personally, I felt there was almost it was getting diluted a little bit. The knowledge,
Mm.
all the experiences and knowledge that I was absorbing whilst visiting factories and farms across the world. When I'm
Mm.
seeing a lot of that information somewhat changed, diluted um, to what originally should be, and sometimes people repeat something that is not true and it becomes a reality. That's when I
Right.
thought, look, we need to do something. We need to create a space, a repository of knowledge that helps preserve the authenticity, the
Mm.
real, authentic craft. So that
Right.
was a need, but at the same time, there was a more practical element to it. I had a sales team there in the UK. I think there were, a dozen people or so working. Back in Spain, we had 20 plus people working. And in that process of bringing the knowledge to the retailers, right, conveying the processes that allows a retailer to be more confident in the way they sell cigars,
Mm.
understanding the stories behind the families, the processes from the planting, the curing, the fermentation, the different terroir from different countries. I would find myself repeating the same again and again and again, and I felt
Mm.
like too much was depending on individuals. And I thought there must be a better way to be able to, again, get all this information and share it with the industry, with people that need this for their jobs. Again,
Mm.
retailers, importer, lounges, sommeliers, whatever you call it, there was a need to be able to do this at scale and in a
Mm.
consistent fashion. So, with those two needs in place, the approach that we took, and this is based on what I went to university for. I studied cultural anthropology at university.
Mm.
Cultural anthropology is the study of cultures, the study of human beings, right? So
Right.
from a cultural standpoint, so what a cultural anthropologist would do is he would go to a culture, live with a community, take the
Mm.
Yanomami people of Brazil in the Amazonia River. So you will go there, you live with them, you work like them, they
Mm.
embrace you, and you sit down and you basically ask the questions and capture all the knowledge of that culture. What makes a culture, just like cigars, is a set of beliefs, habits, rituals,
Right.
processes that are passed from one generation to the next one. So, with the same approach that you would write an ethnology in the cigar called with an cultural anthropology, it was the
Mm.
same approach. It was basically a documenting process of going factory to factory, farm to farm, and I had the same approach. And I figured that's the starting point. Let's gather all the knowledge of the elders in a documentary style,
Mm.
sitting down, and I will say with many of them because fortunately I had been their client for many years. So I
Right.
already had that relationship with all the factories and farms. So when I went to them, I said, look, we're creating the Cigar Academy. I need to capture as much knowledge as we can. I'm going to come with a few cameras. I'm going to sit down. And all I need you to do is imagine you're going to hire me as someone who's going to work in that pilon doing fermentation.
Right.
Explain to me in your words, in Spanish or whatever, it doesn't matter the language. Tell me what I need to do, what is the process, how this works, so we can
Mm.
document all that knowledge. Then after that came a process of transcribing, then creating a curriculum. So how do we create all this knowledge into a space that people need to study it, people get tested on, and ultimately
Mhm.
lead to the next two parts of this. There is one element which is the technological platform you use to
Right,
capture and use and have people access all this knowledge. So
right.
in that journey of identifying the best platform, the one we identified, it's a learning management software. It's an LMS that's called Blackboard Anthology.
Hmm.
It's the most expensive one, but in my
Yeah.
opinion, it's the most effective one for what we wanted to accomplish.
Well, Blackboard's been developed over years, though, right? So that's one of those things. It's not a new startup open source software. So with Blackboard, you know what you're gonna get. You can plug and play everything that you're gonna, and it's gonna be consistent.
Totally.
And
That was it.
and then you're gonna have the support, right?
The thing is, I was also familiar with it while I was doing my studies, my higher education studies with the University of Manchester in the UK. Was doing an MBA. The platform they use was Blackboard. So as a student, I already had
Mhm.
experience what it is to engage with that platform, the easiness that
Right,
it has, the way it's so comprehensive. So
right,
already knew. And then when I did my research, and we did obviously our shopping, we interviewed different companies that provide similar softwares, and at least for what we were looking for, it was the most apt platform. I'm not saying there are no other great platforms. There's plenty of them, but this
right,
is the one that university that I highly respect, from Cambridge University to Penn State to several others.
yes,
That's what they use. So we figure, okay,
right.
so now this is the one we need. We've identified the platform. The challenge was the amount of money that we needed for it, but I'll get to that point. So we need a lot of money for this platform. We already
Right.
had the knowledge. Capturing
Mhm.
that was not as expensive. I was able to enlist local videographers in Nicaragua and Mexico and Honduras, the Dominican Republic, that were not, you know, incredibly expensive. Were just right for the kind of content. When it's something a bit raw, it was not for a movie. It's not for an advertisement. It's meant
Right,
for learning, right? So it can be a little bit more, say, basic in terms of the editing that it takes.
right,
At
right.
the content, we identify the platform. The next element that I realized we needed in order to make this attractive to people to want to enlist and undertake their studies with the academy was endorsement.
Mm.
So one of the inspirations to creating something like this is something that in the outside of the U.S. Habanos have done. So Habanos from Cuba, they have
Mhm.
developed a Habano sommelier program that is very effective and has been ongoing now for several decades all around the world. Primarily
Right,
in the UK, they're very strong. In fact, the great majority of people working at the top level in the top shops and in the top hotels and restaurants and lounges in London and across the UK and the rest of Europe to an extent and Middle East, they've all been trained, they've all gone through the Habano sommelier program. The
right.
beauty with the Habano sommelier program is that when people finish that course, they get endorsed their certificate by all 26 Habanos brands. It's
Wow.
easy for them because it's one single company, so it's easier to get all that endorsement, right?
Right,
So
right.
while the process, as soon as we had the platform, we moved the content, and I could show people what we were building, and it was almost finished. I went to all the companies with whom I have worked for several years to basically ask for their endorsement. I remember going to them from people like from Fuente to Joya de Nicaragua to
Mm.
Oliva to AJ Fernandez and sitting down with them and saying, look, this is what we're doing. We need your support. And I remember occasionally saying, people will ask me, so how much money do you need? I said, look,
Right,
we don't need any money. What I need from you is your endorsement. That's a lot more valuable. I'm
right,
not asking you for a penny. The content's here. Have your team take a look at it. Have your best people in the industry in your company have a peek and see if they feel comfortable that you can say this certification by the Cigar Academy from their members. So the members of the Cigar Academy as members are only the cigar makers. These
mm,
16 cigar makers, eventually 17 cigar makers, who basically endorse the course. And
right,
that's how things get started. I mean, the fact that we had the endorsement from some of the most renowned cigar companies in the world, we had
right,
the right platform, we had the right content. These were not Ricardo's words. This was not me telling you how the cigars are made and what is the history and how to do it. I simply became a conveyor of that knowledge because I sat down with all the elders and they gave me all the richness of their knowledge. So that's how all the ingredients came together. And I think it was probably the first Vegas show you did. You were telling me 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That's we launched the Cigar Academy at the last Vegas trade show. That's
Right. 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 Yeah.
the
And see, I
announcement.
remember that. So, see, the guys, I want you to really grasp that concept. Like a lot of times, like we're looking for monetary exchanges, right? We're looking for like a monetary backing. You sat there and said, "No, I don't need your money. I need your endorsement. I need your affluence. I need your name to be behind our brand that shows that you have confidence and you recommend us." So, and if you're going to take that into those of you that are listening, if you're going to take that into context, that's like having the highest referral possible, right? So
Yeah,
if you have a business, like the best feeling in the world is that your clients refer you more clients. And essentially that's really how that translates is like, hey, you went to Arturo Fuente for example, and you're like, hey, I, money, thanks for offering it. We'll take your money. Don't get me wrong, but what I need is you to say, hey, this academy knows what they're doing. They can be trusted with the education going forward, and that's monumental, brother. Like,
that was a big thing, and that came after almost by the time I started to get to know him till that moment when I asked him for the endorsement. There had been at least 7 to 8 years of knowing each other, so they knew
mm,
who I was. They knew what we were doing. They know what we had done in the industry prior to this, the impact that we had in the UK and Spain. So there was already a. They knew who we were. They knew who I
mm,
was. It was something new. It's something that is slightly different approach to other education platforms or courses out there. So they value that, and indeed, exactly like you said, look, it works in all industry. That is your strongest sometimes point of differentiation. If you have those clients that are willing to give you those referrals, that are willing to give a testament to who you are in
mm,
this industry in particular, that is so much driven by relationships, that is your word is your currency. And that's
mm,
one of the first lessons that I learned coming into the industry. I can tell you the short story. I remember I take on my role in the UK,
mm.
CEO of Toy Imports back then.
Yeah,
And I started having the first conversation with the owner. One of the first questions I had was, look, hey, I've gone through the documentation, I've seen the paperwork, or historic and all that. But I'm not finding the contracts that makes us the exclusive importers of all these great brands, from Padron to etc., all the great brands. And he looks at me, a man that's well experienced, well over 30 plus years in the industry. And he shows me his hand. He looks at me in the eyes and he says, in this industry, Ricardo, your currency is your word. More than
man.
any paperwork. You don't depart from a point of mistrust like in other industry. You depart from a point of trust. It's up to you to lose that trust. So that's
Right,
why everything you do, if you're gonna say you're gonna do it, you deliver. Because this
right,
industry, well, it's not too big. It's small enough to kick off and weed off, and all those bad apples don't last long.
right,
But this is about
right.
relationships and being truthful to your word, and that's what I
Mm,
think we built that um, over the years, that trust from all
right,
these players, that they said, look, these guys are doing something good. They're investing a lot of money in this. They're not charging something crazy. They're not asking for sponsorship. All they're saying is, we need your support, and that's what allowed us really to have an initial level of success, primarily in the international markets,
mm,
because that's where I was still based. That's where my co-founder, Thomas Brisson, is a Belgian fella. He works with Oliva Cigars. So that's the kind of ecosystem where we had the biggest traction and experience, working in
mm.
all global markets. So it was a lot easier to begin in Hungary and Turkey, um, in the UK, in duty free in the Middle East. So we created all these partnerships and a few accounts of significance in the United States.
Right.
But the United States really wasn't our playground. Our playground historically had been internationally. That's why the first years of existence of the Cigar Academy, its
Was
major
across the board.
success were found internationally.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. See, and the your currency, your word is your currency. I like the more ingratiated I get in this business, in this industry, the more I'm starting to see that, right? And it's like oh well, send me the invoice or send me the like. You don't want to go over the contracts or anything like that. No, no. If I've seen you, I know you. I've already vetted you out. I trust your word, and in this industry and in this, you can't get through that in other industries. Like other industries, they
You need a contract before you do anything, because
yeah,
there's
you gotta give me your contract, set up your contract, and then we'll go back and forth and negotiate. I'm not going there. We're not gonna do this. But like in this cigar industry, it's like you have a smoke, you do it over the leaf, and it's kind of like, okay, so I'm going to do this. This is what I said I was going to do. I'm going to do that. Can you hold up your end of the bargain?
That's how it
And
works. Of course, there's contracts that come into place when you do a specific projects and when you make
right,
purchases and more like monetary investments. Of course, there is an element of contractual agreements, but that first point of that starting point of creating that relationship is not based on that. It's based primarily on that trust that you're giving to someone to
yeah, because I mean the initiation is going off of your word, right?
absolutely,
Like
absolutely,
I'm getting out of my bed because I said I was going to do it, and I
absolutely.
expect you to do the same. Now, when we start divvying up the money, this is where the we put it on paper. This is what we're getting. This is what we're not getting, right?
Totally.
But the initiation of going off your word is currency. Man,
Yes.
that is so powerful, brother.
It is a very old school in many ways way of carrying yourself and doing business. But personally, I admire that. I think that that's one of the many beautiful, unique traits that this industry has, and
Mm,
it's what keeps people, people of class, people of good, good standing, people who are serious, people who dedicate their lives to this. I mean, if you look at it, most people they could be doing something else and making a lot more money in other
right,
industries, but
right.
there's something deeper, something stronger that
Mm,
attracts you and makes you want to be part of this beautiful culture. Whilst it's very challenging, and don't take me wrong, I mean, you all the time you're putting out fires. There's still a lot more that we can modernize into the way we carry our businesses. Let's say from a logistics, distribution, importation, we can get better in marketing. We can get better at storytelling. There's a lot of improvements that can be done, but that
mm,
essence, that craft, that culture, that heritage, that tradition is
right.
something that it's so powerful and almost intangible. But it's what brings folks from all over the world with that commitment to be truthful, to work hard, and to make a success out of it.
Mm,
Rather than being a very selfish approach, is generally speaking, there's a lot of wishing. Of course, you want to be better than the rest. There's always competition, but you don't want others to do bad as well, because you know that the more people do better, generally speaking, the more the industry grows. You
mm,
make the pie bigger, and there's more opportunities for more people. You don't
right.
want it just to yourself. So that's something that again is very, very attractive and very, very inspiring in this industry.
Very true. So with I'm gonna go back into the education aspect of it. So with going into the Cigar Academy, what are we going to learn when we become a student in the Cigar Academy? Like, is it more so becoming like a tobacconist to sell, or becoming a roller, or is it becoming a sommelier? Tell me about the different dynamics of the academy.
Totally. So I think there's two ways. There's a before and after the PCA. I think the moment the PCA has now taken over in terms of ownership, our priority going forward is to create, which is not there yet. So we're in the process right now of developing the retailers program, the tobacconist program. So
Mm,
something that's going to essentially provide retailers in the United States and all over the world with the knowledge in terms of the processes, but
mm,
also the knowledge in terms of how to undertake their job essentially. So what's the best practice, the most effective way of procuring, preserving, displaying, and commercializing cigars in that way.
right.
So that's one element that when we launched what would be the prior to PCA, when we started with what we did first, a Cigars 101, which is an introductory course, which is now still active. It's been there for 2 years. and we
Mm,
have the level one award, which is a more in-depth level one. So the vision that we have for those courses that are currently exist prior to the retailers is essentially creating a level one that puts everybody on the same page in terms of product knowledge and in terms of how you have the capability to recommend or sell a cigar, but
mm,
not for a specific location. This is more in a broader sense. Whether you work in a lounge, whether you're an aficionado that wants to recommend a cigar, what is the knowledge that you can have, and how do you pair cigars? How do you preserve your cigars? How do you cut and light and store your cigars? Then
mm,
level two, which now will come right after the retailers program. The level two goes more in depth with the intention of essentially doing it in a cohort base. Level one that we have now, anybody can do it at any time. It's done
mm,
online. We do have hybrid sessions where we can do them in person and online for different, there's a, for instance, there's a group of 10, 15 people in an entity. It could be a retailer, it could be an importer, and they want to do level one. Sometimes we do those courses in person.
mm.
We developed some courses for duty free. For instance, Dubai duty free contacted and hired the Cigar Academy and made the Cigar Academy their provider of education. So we adapted that level one award to Dubai duty free. And we've done the same to other institutions. So what you learn there, if you go yourself, you sign up as an aficionado, you get all that from the history till today, all the processes. It's unbranded, so there's no brands involved. It's all about the craft, the process, and how to recommend it, right?
Mhm.
That what has given, I'll give you a perfect example of how that had a great impact on a big retailer, well, a good retailer in the US, in California. There's a casino called Agua Caliente. They have a beautiful lounge, the Privat Lounge, Coachella, California. Just a few weeks ago, they won the Best of the Leaf Award, provided given
Mm.
by the PCA in New Orleans as the best lounge in that region.
Right.
Right after I get off the stage, the owners they see me and they came to me and I said, Ricardo, this award, we'll have to be honest, this is in great part thanks to the Cigar Academy.
Wow.
Why? They said because all that level one award knowledge that our team has gone through. Now they have 16 students, 60 members of their team have gone through the Cigar Academy. They do it on their own now. They just sign up and they do it,
Right.
giving them the confidence. And that's the most powerful thing a salesperson or someone in a lounge is, in addition to the way they teach them how to carry themselves and how to dress and all that stuff, that every lounge has their own style or every retailer will have their own way. What you
Right.
provided with the Cigar Academy is a level of knowledge of the project, of the processes, of the craft that allows them to be so confident when they approach a client, when somebody asks them questions, when somebody questions, why is this cigar so expensive? They have the know how of why fermentation takes what it takes, what it means to cure a cigar properly, what that terroir in from that tobacco, what it means in that blend. So that confidence has allowed us to sell more cigars, better quality cigars, and increase our sales. So that was an immediate reaction. We saw similar responses in Europe. People who did the level one award that we have in different hotels, like from the Ritz to the Bulgari and other hotels, there was
Mm.
an increase in sales, and not only of cigar sales, but just in general, as hospitality businesses, their sales of drinks, of food that they sell, everything went what we see around 30 to 35% increase in terms of
Wow.
the revenue that it generates once you have a great supply of cigars, but
Mm.
just as importantly, staff that is confident and knowledgeable of
Right.
the cigar culture, the cigar processes, right? So that was the first stage. However,
Mm.
we have identified that in the United States, we need to create something that speaks specifically, and it brings additional tools, again, best practices,
Mm.
strategies, scenarios where retailers get that knowledge.
Right.
Level two, which is the one that we're going to launch right after the retailers program, the level two is going to go deeper in the sense that as a cohort, folks are going to be able to learn directly from the masters. So the
Mm.
idea, what we actually are working on is getting content, no longer written or videos that we took during those visits, but actually
Right.
have cigar makers, growers, manufacturers talk about the different processes and the different elements of the
Mm.
of the craft. So you will have someone perhaps like Juan Martinez from Hoya de Nicaragua talking about how cigars are manufactured, how they
Mm.
make blends. You're gonna have people from all these different companies essentially giving live sessions where students will be able to join those sessions online and
Mm.
have those sort of online workshops. And that will be recorded for those folks who come later on. So level two gets deeper in the sense that you connect directly to that knowledge from the makers.
Right.
Then the last level, which is a diploma, the level three,
Mm.
also in a cohort, for that one, you have to go to the countries. You have to come to Nicaragua, you have to go to Honduras, you have to go to different countries every year. With all that theory, you have an ability, you have an opportunity now to put it into practice. Not to
Mm.
become a roller, not to become someone who's going to work at the factories, but to
Right.
give you that, to put it all basically, to make it all cohesive, to gel in, to get your nails dirty, to get burned, to get dirty, doing
Right.
the processes that you now are so familiar with. And that's what gives you the highest level of education of the Cigar Academy curriculum that's going to be unbranded. As I
Mm.
said, the retailers, duty free, and potentially hospitality, those will be three separate courses. So we're
Wow.
developing retailers first. We continue working with duty free, which is a
Hmm.
very different kind of a setup. You know,
Right.
you're not in a shop, you don't get to smoke a cigar, you only have seconds to capture that customer within an
Mhm.
airport space to be able to sell them the right cigar or answer the right question about a cigar. And then
Wow.
hospitality again, it's not exactly like a retail. There's different elements. They do have a lot more. They have food, they have drinks, they have more time. So it's a whole different approach, perhaps more refined in some depending on the different venues. So
So
that's what
kind of more so like the concierge approach to it.
totally. So it's more comprehensive. Like what are you gonna eat? What did you
Mhm.
eat? What are you planning to drink? So it involves a lot more points where hospitality gives you that ability to drive it by experience rather
Mhm.
than product. So that's where the future is, and that's what we're working on. Retailers first. We hope to open the retailers program fairly soon. So that's in the making
Mhm.
right now. We're going to announce the deadlines and all that very soon. Immediately after that, we move to hospitality,
Okay.
and in that process, that's what we envision doing. I mean, we envision that more and more individuals, whatever the category, segment, vertical they're working on, they're being exposed to this industry. They find in the Premium Cigar Association, under that umbrella, they find the Cigar Academy, they find the right course for their
Right.
needs at that
Mhm.
time, and that as PCA members, they get the benefit of being able to access that course either at a significant discount, potentially as part of their membership. So there will be
Mhm.
different ways of basically providing. Ultimately, that's our job as an association to provide to our membership all the benefits and all
Mhm.
the education that they need to thrive and make this industry better. And that will extend even to members of teams of manufacturers,
Mhm.
sales teams, so folks going around the US selling their products. That
Right.
will go at some point even to aficionados. So that's
Mhm.
something that comes down the pipeline through the
Right.
PCA Alliance. So the PCA Alliance, which is that bridge between
Right.
aficionados and people who are not directly in the industry, perhaps in different industry, drinks, spirits, and so on. How
Mhm.
do we also provide education that's relatable and that's helpful for what they
Mhm.
do in their industries? So as you can see,
Right.
we're creating a universe that speaks and provides the right level of education and the right tools for whatever you're into and whatever part you play in the industry. So it's very
I love it.
ambitious, but we're making it happen. Like you said, look, you can have an idea, you can have a dream, but it's all about execution, and that's what I think has set apart the leadership of Josh, particularly
Mhm.
Joshua Haberski, our CEO, prior leaders as well.
The Wolf of K Street, man. Gotta love them. Gotta love them.
It's all about delivering. Great
Yes.
ideas. Anybody can have a great idea, but how do you actually deliver and execute it in a timely and cost efficient and high level fashion? That's our mantra. Execution at the highest level.
And that's where the creativity comes into play. How do we get the most out of our budget without extending our budget or completely blowing it up? So
Absolutely.
in my mind, right, I'm over here listening and I'm thinking, I'm like, so when we go into depth for like if I'm selling at the shops or the lounges, or I'm going into learning how to be a roller, um would we start learning from master blenders? Would you get access to master blenders, or is that's not on the table yet? Or
So let's say if you're a retailer, right, and you want to have that, that's exactly what level two would provide you. So on a level two basis, that's going to be that cohort system where you have access to engage with the blenders, with the cigar makers. Now, keep in mind the retailers program and the current program, all that knowledge was me asking those questions to those folks already. So
Right.
that's already in itself. But what you're already absorbing there, this is not some retailer giving another retailer advice. This is people that have done the job and I'm giving everything out there for people to go and read it. There's texts, there's videos, there's podcasts. So there's all these different styles of content that people, they go through it in modules in a certain order, and they get a quiz after every single module. Then they have a test at the end that they have to pass in order to get certified. So to an extent, the knowledge that's already there comes from these masters, the real masters.
Right.
What is going to come, the engagement will be at the later stages when we launch the level two. They're going to have those online workshops where they can ask questions that perhaps were not answered in the studies that they undertook in level one. And lastly, when they actually come to the country as part of level three, they'll be able to be on site in the country, fine tuning, refining those questions. But again, we're not in the business of educating at this stage rollers or blenders. This is more
Right.
to be able to apply that knowledge to your retail business, to your importation business, to your sales process, or if you're a PCM Alliance member, as a way of understanding, being able to show off to your friends in a way and be able to say, I can recommend the right cigar for my friends when they come over. So it gives empowers all those people with the knowledge and the certification. Now we're getting, for instance, I get calls every once in a while from different organizations. The last one was from a big retailer in the United Kingdom who were looking for a member of staff and they couldn't find any great applicants when they were putting out there the job description through LinkedIn and different ways, right? Different platforms. And they said, Ricardo, do you have a graduate from the Cigar Academy? Because we know what the program is. We know that people out there taking that are very likely already to do a good job in this post. Can you recommend some folks? So this is already happening where graduates, that's ultimately what we wanted to see as well, is that by elevating and professionalizing the education and the arts of being a retailer or being a salesperson within the cigar industry, that once you have that certificate and that endorsement, that allows you, that helps you in your journey in trying to identify a role within the industry. I had also a cigar maker at some point a while ago, trying to find someone like a brand ambassador in an Eastern European country. And since they know that there's several Eastern European students who have graduated from the academy, they were looking within the database of graduates that we have to approach some students. So it's almost becoming like a LinkedIn in a way, in terms of being able to identify talent of people who have done the course and who are more likely than not to be, at least have the knowledge, the aptitude. They have to test it, but at least in terms of the interest and the knowledge that they've already been able to get certified on, it's helping a lot. And that's what we're going to see, I'm sure, with retail. I've seen it in the UK for a long time with the Habanos program.
Right.
Most people who do the Habanos program, they have an advantage over other candidates when they're applying for that job. So that's what we're trying to develop. Now, on the note of master blenders, something that I wanted to mention, and this is where education becomes very interesting as well, because there's the courses that we offer, but part of our relationship on the international arena and also in education in the US, one of the most, I would say, groundbreaking, truly a landmark program that we launched last year in November was with Florida International University. So this is a different kind of model. This is something where the Cigar Academy and the PCA come together and partner with a university to provide an executive education program, an academic program directly from the university about cigars. In this instance, was about marketing. So luxury marketing and experiences with the cigar industry. And the students that we had in the first cohort were perhaps individual. We had a great variety of them, but we had people who currently work in marketing of cigars. We had students of FIU who didn't know that the cigar industry potentially could be something that they should be the cigar as something to look and bring their knowledge in marketing.
Right.
We have branding experts. We have the children of some of the manufacturers currently leading the world of cigars. So this wide range of students identify this course as an opportunity to come and learn, because the beauty of it is that the actual teachers leading the different sessions are people from the industry. So
Right.
while we create the curriculum and the lessons are delivered by experts. So these
Mm.
are retailers who've been doing this for 20, 30 years at the highest level. These are CEOs of some of the largest organizations in the industry. These
Right.
are marketing mavericks within the industry. So they are engaging. We as a PCA create the curriculum together with FIU. FIU provides endorsement, provides the academic certification. They
Hmm.
help us develop the academic tools and the way to deliver this within the university itself. And then you have these masters of the industry coming in and in different sessions sharing the knowledge with the students. And this is going to happen again, the second cohort with FIU. It's
Hmm.
going to be September 30th to October the 2nd. This is going to be the next round. Again, primarily anchored in the world of marketing, branding, communication, of luxury experience and products, but already evolving that curriculum to something more refined. And already we can see a lot of interest. So that's a different way of basically, I would say, bringing folks who maybe never thought of this industry as something where they can bring their skills.
Right.
This is something that's giving people already in the industry a very specific set of tools, enriching their toolkit already into what
Hmm.
they do. And
Right.
even after the first course, I had people who were in the process of launching their own new brands who came to us and said, "Look, Ricardo, quite genuinely, this program was fundamental, was really essential, instrumental in helping me tweak and improve my launch strategy for my
Mm.
brand, which I just did." So the endorsement that we're getting is fantastic. So that's the academic institution that we started with was FIU. Right after FIU, Kaiser University, also from
Mm.
Florida, reached out to us and we connected with them and we launched a program where we're launching a program that's going to come now in July in Nicaragua.
Mm.
But that's about the business, not about the marketing, but actually the business of running cigar operations, logistics, manufacturing, and so on.
And see, a lot of that is really where my wheelhouse is, right? I'm more a strategist. Like I can cigar nerd out with the cigar nerds. It's cool, right? We can talk about wrappers, we can talk about fermentation, we can talk about humidity, all that other stuff, right? But I myself,
Yeah.
Bosstalks on the Rooftop, Kingpin, I am a fan of strategic positioning. How do we conquer the market? And it just so happened to be over the leaf, right? So I'm more so interested in uh those educational pieces. So like how would you present that to someone like me that is looking to get into the industry and you see a lot of these cigar brands and they don't know cigar business. And so like I'm glad you stepped into that and said like, hey, we have a course for you to learn cigar business, right?
Yep.
So what does that look like?
Exactly. So that's what it is. So in the case of Kaiser, for instance, so not too focused on the marketing side. That's the marketing, and which is really important as well because when you talk about marketing, it's not an experience. We're talking about the packaging. We're talking about the way, the storytelling, the positioning of that brand within that segment. So there's a lot of elements that go into launching a new brand. So that's
Right.
kind of the marketing and launch element within FIU. In the case of Kaiser, the focus is more in terms of for instance, the logistics of getting that tobacco into the factory. How
Yes.
much you need of that product? How do you
Right.
export that product? What all the challenges that you have from procuring the boxes to procuring the cello? So it's more the operational and a strategic view. Do you start in the US or do you start in an international market? So we
Mm.
provide all that knowledge through a curriculum we build together. But again, the ones who are going to be delivering those sessions are people doing the job in Nicaragua.
Already doing it. Yeah.
So some of the biggest leaders in the industry, leading, some of the biggest operations in the industry, will be at those sessions sharing that knowledge with the students. So that's
Mm.
what potentially someone like you say, look, this is what I'm more interested in. I'm interested in more in how do you operate a factory? How do you operate a brand? How do you create these markets? How do you penetrate markets? How do you protect your market? All that strategy, that's more
Yes.
likely to be apt for something like what we're doing with Kaiser. If it's
Mm.
a launch of a new product, creating the marketing, the storytelling, the branding, the success of that, that's likely to be at FIU. And now
Mm.
what we're seeing is that this is actually multiplying and growing. Our view, and already are in conversations with universities in other countries. So we're talking about potentially launching something in Puerto Rico. So in Puerto Rico will be another aspect of
What
education.
do you why? Let's go.
We are in conversations in Mexico with the university
Mm,
there, where there's a lot of interest, primarily also with the hospitality, but also with the winemakers and an experience that I have within the wine sector and cigars.
mm,
The students of the wine may basically is the whole wine courses at the University of Houston.
mm,
I did a I was invited as a guest lecturer for 2 days together with Joshua to talk about the world of cigars from a hospitality perspective to these students who they went into wines because they see wine as an opportunity to run their own hospitality businesses, restaurants, bars, not to make wine necessarily, but to have the skills to do a business within the wine world. And
right.
when they realize how cigars and premium cigars, there's so many similarities, terroir-led, agricultural, craft,
Mm,
tradition, high-end, luxury products, they saw an opportunity and they were very, very engaged. So that's we
mm,
foresee Mexico is likely to be more about how do you use cigars the way that wine, tequila, and chocolates and other products have been able to help you in your business, whatever the business is, whether like I said, hospitality in general, or even a
mm,
store. So that's the idea, more and more to partner with academic institution. And this is so important, right? So because the moment you have academia behind our industry, once and for all, helps legitimize our industry. We're not doing anything illegal. This is not something that, it's wrong. There's
right.
been a lot of regulation that treats premium cigars as something illegal, and it almost makes you feel defensive. The fact that academia, it sees this the same way you see a high-end premium whiskey, the same
Mm,
way you see a fine wine, the same way you approach this to fine gastronomy. Cigars are in that world of
right.
craft, agricultural, luxury products that are cultural ambassadors of the different countries of the world. And that's really what ultimately helps us in an advocacy point of view. The more understanding there is that academia is behind it, that future leaders of different parts of the world in different capacities will have already that sensitivity and that understanding will help
Mm,
us defend our industry again against purely misinformation, lack of knowledge, and that's why academia is so important for us and all the effort and energy that we're putting into bringing cigars to the world of academic studies. Many people, and just to add up to that, is
mm,
many of us, many folks, perhaps they didn't get a chance to get a degree in what they're into because they were too busy working. Life gets in the way. They've been raising families, whatever it is. Executive programs of this fashion that do not have a pre-requirement in terms of having a bachelor in arts or some kind of higher education of significance. If you have the experience, it's a way of finally getting some kind of academic certificate and
right.
recognition, a degree from a well-respected organization, well-respected institution. Even if
Mm,
it's an executive program, still already gives you those credentials that many times makes a difference when you're applying for a job. That's something that you can say, I've done this program about cigars at FIU or at Kaiser that can help develop your career.
well, like we talked about earlier in the conversation, that endorsement, it's worth more than monetary investments or anything of that nature. So the to be able to have that kind of endorsement from the Cigar Academy via the PCA, with the brand that the PCA is on its own, right? The Premium Cigar Association. We just had the what I call the Super Bowl of cigar trade shows,
Yeah.
right? So when guys when you go to if you're able to join the PCA as a retailer, as an exhibitor, or as an alliance member, and you make it to the PCA trade show, it can be overwhelming just because it's every manufacturer or any the who's who in the cigar industry that really takes it seriously, all in one spot. and a lot of retailers that go there that are members of the PCA. So that endorsement, I just can't reiterate or give enough of the adulation that I have for the PCA for what it is, right? It's been 30 some odd years or 30 plus years of being the staple and the push behind the cigar industry. And then you have the Cigar Academy endorsing you and saying that you have the knowledge base to come out here and represent this industry, the cigar industry. That endorsement alone is priceless, right? So that's why I feel like you're getting a lot more um, when you do send your tobacconist to the Cigar Academy. And I want a lot of the retailers to really grasp this, right? Because like a lot of the pushback is like when new brands come out, right? The pushback from retailers is like, well, no one knows you. So now I have to sell your stuff, right? And I don't know you, and you want to get into my retail location, right? So if we can educate both sides, like the one that wants to own the cigar brand and the one that wants to be the retailer, and they can both tell the story and sell their stuff in the most proper way and the most efficient way, and to where they can stay around for a long time. And, and some
That's
people,
actually, I love you mentioned that. Interesting enough, in the past 6 months, approximately, we've been undertaking a lot of engagement within the education subcommittee of the Premium Cigar Association. So this is a subcommittee that I'm chairing, where we have different members. I'm co-chairing also with some very important retailer, a member of the board. So we have an interesting constituency of, there's representative from retailers, from cigar manufacturers. So you have both ends, exactly what you say. You have many of the salespeople of the brands and those buying those brands. And interesting enough, one of the key topics that we will be including because of all these meetings and when we basically mapped out what are the needs, what do people need to be a little bit more knowledgeable about, or have more best practice, or learn from each other how to do better at this part, is that intersection between the salesperson and the
Mhm.
retailer, the
Right,
perspective of someone that comes with that brand trying to help with their own commission and their own livelihood, and the retailer on the other side, like you said, perhaps with no knowledge of that brand, but also
mhm,
having limited capacity in terms of how much space they have in their humidor and how much
right,
investment they want to make to a brand that perhaps they don't know. But that was one of the topics that was identified early on and made into the matrix of needs that the retailer's program needs to fulfill,
mhm,
and is the best practice from both ends.
right,
What is you as a salesperson, what do you want to accomplish? Try to understand the retailer's challenges and perspective, and vice versa, so your relationship can be as efficient and as active as possible. What is it that you, as a salesperson, should be providing to that retailer that's considering perhaps to sell your cigar? You need that cigar knowledge. How do you provide it? How do you visit them? With what recurrency you have to visit them? What many lines do you want to bring? So all that know-how, all that best practice have been exchanged already, and we're now in the process of developing that curriculum, that
mhm,
knowledge, to insert it into one of the modules of what's going to be the Cigar Academy's retailer program by the Premium Cigar Association. But that's exactly it. There's so many gaps of knowledge that during those intersections, that's where you need to be the most um, active on,
right,
be able to fulfill the needs of not just one side of it, but as many of our membership. At the end of the day, the Premium Cigar Association success is based on the success of its members. And the
right,
one thing also to add on, you mentioned on how this endorsement and try to motivate retailers once this program launches to take it and be part of it, is that whatever cost it will be involved in undertaking these studies, that percentage at the end of the day goes into our own advocacy program. So you're supporting your association by
right,
being part of this education. And that's very powerful. This is not a private organization creating education programs for their
Right.
own profit. We're doing this, but at the end of the day, it's not a for-profit business.
Right.
Whatever do we take from this that can be used in addition to the running of the platform and all the basic costs that we have to undertake to cover, right? Cover for all the overheads.
Mhm.
Everything else essentially goes into all of our programming. Everything that has to do with state level, nation level, city level, all the advocacy and all the hard work that we do to protect our industry, it's
Mhm.
all part of the same infrastructure financially.
Wow. And that's amazing. So, uh, going forward, how do we connect with you? How do we get involved? Um, one with the PCA and two with the Cigar Academy aspect of the PCA. Like, is the Cigar Academy called something different with now that it's been combined with PCA? Is there a
No, no, great
differentiation?
question. Thank you. I mean, because yes, we want to have a call to action to see how we can engage with each other. So the cigaracademy.com, that's still the Cigar Academy is the name. Now you will see there the logos of the PCA because it has come under the PCA umbrella. But
Mm,
we felt there was enough traction and it was a strong enough name to maintain it, the Cigar Academy.
yeah.
The website's there. So whilst we haven't yet launched the retailers program, I do invite folks who are PCA members to explore, for instance, the Cigars 101 program. It's a very introductory level. It's a couple of hours program for if you're a PCA member, you get a 50% off at this stage. We're in the process of reviewing that and see if we can do something even better potentially. So for
Mm,
$25, you get your Cigars 101 access to that course, you get your license, and you can go and undertake that program. If
mm,
you want to do the level one award program, the regular cost, this is 16 different modules. This can take anything between 10 to 12 hours of education, and it
mm,
gives you a certificate in the end endorsed by the members of the PCA. So that program, regular retail price for anyone who goes that is not PCA member is $250. If you're a
mm.
PCA member, you get a 50% discount for $125. And
Wow.
that involves all the podcasts, all the videos, all the documentaries, all the content, the quizzes, and the formal certification that you get at the end of your studies. So
Mm,
at the end, so that would say that one would be one good initial way of getting familiarized. You go to the cigaracademy.com, you undertake some of these courses. Alternatively, you can reach out to us and you can reach out to Ricardo at premiumcigars.org. That's my PCA email address. And
mm,
if you're a retailer that potentially has a number of people in there, have a couple of stores, and you have a dozen or more students, we can work in organizing a workshop in person. So that's something that we are also offering. So it's something that depends on the numbers, the location, and if you can make it work, we're open to essentially going there and delivering the course in a mix of online education. You have access to all that content, but also we do something in person.
mm,
If you are a consumer, I want to get involved with education. I would say explore the PCA Alliance. I think PCA Alliance is a way of giving back into the industry. And
mm.
through a PCA Alliance, as a member of the PCA Alliance, also you get discounts to be able to access the current education. And going forward, there will be also more educational programs. So I would say this is just the beginning of what's going to be a wide range of courses that will be tailored to every single part of the industry. But as it is today already, there is say something that will give you something to begin with at a very, very affordable price. And again, you're helping the PCA with that. That's why once you make those payments and you enroll in your program.
Yeah. And Ricardo, I appreciate you, man. It sounds phenomenal. I'm looking forward to the program and looking forward to everything that it's going to do for the industry going forward. Um, I'm 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 just ecstatic. I'm more than appreciative of your time. And guys, connect with Ricardo. He's going to be doing way more things than what we talked about today. This is just the introductory to who your international director of international affairs and education is. Um, get to know him. Get to know the courses. Send your people through these courses, especially to take some of. take the workload off of you, right? If you're a retailer, you want to take the workload off of you. Send your people, your new sales guys, if they don't have any kind of knowledge or know-how just coming right off the street, send them through the Cigar Academy. That way they can at least get introduced and get refreshed, or they can get um, knowledge that they would know how to sell product in store, right? And then that interest level can become an enthusiast level. So the Cigar Academy is there for you. PCA is there for you. So make sure you go and at least give it a look, oversee it, go through the course yourself. You may learn something.
No, quite the contrary. I'm sincerely grateful for your time. I truly enjoyed this lively exchange. Like you say, that's ultimately what it's for. I mean, from an educational standpoint, grades are right there for you. If you want to come to Florida and you want to undertake the academic studies, visit
Mhm.
us at thecigaracademy.com. If you want to, like you said, give that confidence and that knowledge to the members of your team, and we help alleviate the time that it takes to educate them. And stay tuned for the new programs that will be coming on down the line very soon that perhaps are more applicable to you. So do not hesitate to reach out. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook. I have my email address, ricardo at premiumcigars.org, or you can come up to the Cigar Academy and you can contact us via the Cigar Academy and we'll respond and support you. But your support, Bryson, your time, your energy, your positive attitude, it's just phenomenal. I want to thank you. I want to congratulate you and invite you to, yeah, stay in touch. And I look forward to seeing you, hopefully, if not here in Dallas, maybe the next PCA, but hopefully we don't have to wait for the next show for that long.
Right,
And I
right.
want you to come over to and undertake the course. We'll have a conversation and see how we can get you engaged and enrolled into the Cigar Academy, so you can tell the story from your own perspective as well, which I think will be very powerful message once you take a bit of time to do it. Into the many things that you have to do, take a bit of time for education. So to everyone who joined us today, thank you. We're grateful for your time, grateful for your support as PCA. We're here to fight the tough battles. We're here to share the knowledge of the masters and work together for the preservation, to nurture, to protect, and to develop our way of life, or cigar culture, or cigar industry. We're simply humble guardians of the leaf. That's our job.
Absolutely. So, guys, remember to like, subscribe, share, rewatch the channel, share this channel with your fellow cigar enthusiasts. You're going to learn a lot, and then you get a lot more information. Ricardo, thanks again. And guys, remember, storms don't last, but your home should. Peace.
Take
Two.
care. All the best. Thank you.